Hello everybody, and welcome to another installment of my new player guides, where we break down a character, go through their entire kit, talk about an example deck so that you know what the proper next steps are. Proper is a little hyperbolic, I would say. My advised next steps, what you can do with this. You like the hero, what can you do? Maybe open up the card pool a little bit. Then we wrap it up by talking about all the encounter cards, the obligation, and the Nemesis. And yeah, that's going to be the basic breakdown. Pretty simple. Today we are talking about what I would say is one of the more challenging heroes for me to talk about. Peni Parker, aka the SPDR suit, is a very unique hero. And I feel like that's partially because it was made by somebody who's outside of the Marvel Champions team normally. We were talking about MJ Newman, who had done almost all of, well, I suppose she did all of Arkham Horror up to a certain point when she left to pursue other career or whatever. I won't pretend like I know all the ins and outs there. I just know that she did Arkham Horror. She threw this into a file for Marvel Champions, and they eventually got around to it, inspired by the Into the Spider-Verse movie, because that's where Peni Parker really got her big blow up into the pop culture. That's all just kind of lore. She is kind of a character that we don't see a lot. We only see her really during the big Spider-Verse crossovers. So in terms of the background, the thematics, I think this is all just going to kind of be from vibes for the most part. So let's get into it, because already we've got two cards on the table, because Peni Parker is a very interesting twist on a hero design. So we've got the alter ego here, and the hero card is actually over here. And we'll get into how all this works. I'll say that the first time I played with this character, I had a little bit of struggle just keeping track of everything and noticing how important traits are in this pack. So we've got Peni Parker, a 4 recovery civilian alter ego with psychogenetic capability, which is a setup ability where you put the SPDR suit into play in active side face up. So yeah, the other card. And maintenance ability, which is an alter ego action, exhaust the spider suit, draw 2 cards. I will say that, especially early on, I really took advantage of this ability. I would always draw cards, and then I would immediately realize that it is a trade-off. You're getting 2 additional cards for the fact that you can't use your hero, essentially. And then most notably, on her alter ego side, she has 4 hand size and 14 hit points. Whole bunch of hit points, no hand size. Let's talk briefly, as long as we're looking at it. The inactive side of the suit is a permanent. Its text cannot be treated as blank. So I think that's this might be the only card in the game thus far that says that. I could be wrong. There might be like a encounter card of some kind, something in a villain pack that also says that, but it's nothing that comes to mind. And the return to base forced interrupt, which is when you flip to this side, flip SPDR to Peni Parker. Detach Peni Parker from here, moving all counters on her and cards attached to her to this card. Obviously, there are attachments that go on to stuff. I have struggled a little bit. There has to be circumstances where counters get put on from the encounter deck. And so that's what it's trying to keep track of. It's trying to keep the counters that are important to whatever scenario you're doing, have a logical place to sit. In all my testing, because I went back and did some testing, I played 4 or 5 games with this character just to remind myself, to kind of remember what parts tripped me up. I didn't run into a situation where the moving counters around from one card to another physical card did anything. Attachments, that makes sense. You get a villain attachment attached to you. You're playing as Kang. You get frozen in time or whatever. The things are going to come up. I can't think of what counters, and I sat here and I even looked at the cards real quick to make sure that there wasn't something in her own pack. But that's one part of it that it's just going to happen. You just need to remember that it happens. I can't point out to an exact example of when that does happen. But then when we flip over, and we have the Peni Parker becomes Spider, PDR, which is an interface pilot, and it has permanent. This card cannot be blank. I suppose I misspoke a little bit, but yes, this also cannot be considered blank. And then the Suit Up ability, which is a forced interrupt. When you flip to this side, flip Spider Suit to its active side, attach this card to Spider Suit, moving all counters from this card or cards attached to this card to Spider Suit. So this will just become attached like this. Notably, this is an interface. That's going to be very important in just a second. I feel like this is a lot of text to sort of just like make this entire hero work. Once you know what it's doing, it's just a lot of text to basically keep everything interconnected so that it all makes sense. It's a lot of front-loaded information right at the beginning. But let's talk about the hero side, which is Spider Suit, a 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense hero with the active Spider Warrior, with the active Web Warrior traits, and Sync Ratio, which is response, exhaust, and interface upgrade you control, generate that upgrade's resources. Importantly, like I said, the pilot is a interface and it has a wild resource. So you have, on one side, you have access to draw 2 cards. On the other side, you have the ability to basically always have access to wild resource. And notably, again, the hand size is 3 with hit points of 14. Spider is the only character, or maybe this is the first character that really made me think about how hand size, obviously it's always going to be a way to adjust power level. But this was the first hero where I went, oh, hand size also dictates how quickly you can go through your deck. A hero can add in cards from an aspect that helps them to draw cards. Spider in itself is really slow at drawing cards. And I think that was one of the ways that they sort of tempered what Spider is capable of doing, because I think once this hero gets up and running, it can be very powerful. I have failed to reach that state multiple times while playing it, but I can see how all these pieces are going to come together, and you're going to have what I think is probably a B plus, A minus hero. Maybe even better than that. I think that the people out there that really love Spider probably can just kick that up a couple notches and make an even more powerful hero than I'm even capable of doing. But let's talk about the interfaces real quick, because that's going to be the most important thing. You're using them as both resources and what they're doing. And yeah, let's get talking about the interfaces real quick. Real quick, I want to jump in and just do a quick community spotlight, because this creator has done a lot of stuff on the back end that I really haven't been able to touch on quite yet. But I wanted to highlight MC Deck Discussions, who is a newer creator who is taking on the 4-pack challenge, where they are just hitting on decks that use smaller card pools to help to give you a direction to go in. They've got, plenty of content right here. Look, that's been going on for the last 3 weeks. They have made an impressive amount of content in 3 weeks, but I will be highlighting a deck of theirs next week for Spider Ham, and I want to get some light on them sooner rather than later. So this is my community spotlight for this week. Go look up MC Deck Discussions and dig through their archive. So first up, we've got Web Fluid Compressor. It is a 2-cost upgrade with the interface and tech traits, and it has a hero interrupt of when Spider Suit makes a basic attack, exhaust Web Fluid Compressor, it gets +2 for that attack. So you can use this as a energy resource. You can use this as a way to bump up your attack. Suddenly you're attacking for 4. That's pretty awesome. And if I remember correctly, Spider came with a protection deck. And I feel like that is the first place that I go, because I want to do Repurpose. Repurpose makes so much sense when you're just kind of at a base level, because the Repurpose archetype cares about tech. And Spider has a lot of tech. I will say that the example deck is not going to go in that direction. I realized that I found one that matched the criteria I was looking for that's outside of that. But I think if you're looking to just have something simple, go out down your own thing, you like protection, look up Spider decks that have Repurpose, and you're going to find things that are going to be helpful. But overall, yeah, I like this card. It's an interesting trade-off, because you can either, like I said, you can either get that resource or you can get that +2 attack. And that is one of the signs that Spider can be very powerful, is anytime you can attack for 4 on the regular is good. Then we've got Speed Metal Alloy, a 1-cost upgrade with the interface tech traits. And Hero Interrupt, when Spider Suit defends against an attack, exhaust Speed Metal Alloy, it gets +2 to that defense. So once again, basically the same thing I just said about Web Fluid, except for in this case it just costs a little bit less, but it can be a resource, it can be an extra boost to your defense, which in the games that I have played, I will say that this is the one that I have used the most for bumping up my stats, just because being able to infinitely defend has been very strong. I think it's another reason why you go into protection. You can also, if this is going to be the tech for you, the interface card for you, the upgrade you're going to use, I think this also gives you a really strong reason why you might consider like a perfect defense deck. But overall, like I said with the Compressor, this is just a good card that when you need it, and when you just need the resource, you're just going to use it for that. Then we've got Psychic Link, a 2-cost upgrade, interface tech again. Hero Interrupt, when the Spider Suit makes a basic thwart, exhaust Psychic Link, gets +2 to thwart. So once you're set up, Spider can essentially be a 4/4/4 hero. That sounds great. That sounds like a really good reason why you'd want to limit the hand size to 3, because this could get out of hand very quickly. And I do think additionally it is important to recognize that at a base level, when you only have 3 cards in your hand, that means that for these cards, this is about all you're going to be doing that turn. At the base level, I suppose you have the pilot interface, so you technically do have the ability to play a 3-cost card, but this is going to be a majority of what you're doing for the turn. Luckily, you are not limited to only using one interface, so once you have all your interfaces out, you have an enormous amount of resources to be using. I think you have 5 resources, unless I'm completely blanking. No, I think you have 5 resources because we've got one more interface left. But once you build out, you're very strong. But at the beginning, you sort of have to pick and choose, and hopefully, you're kind of almost hoping that you only see one of these at a time, because the other ones are going to have to be used to pay for it. And that's not what you want to be doing. You want to be getting these out because these are so important to Spider, and they're going to be doing a lot of good work. So yeah, Psychic Link, like I said with the other 2, is just awesome, and it bumps up everything you're doing, and also acts as a genius resource. And last interface, Host Spider. It is a 3-cost upgrade, super expensive, and interface Spider traits. And the hero action, exhaust Host Spider, ready Spider Suit with the wild resource as its thing to be generated. This is a trade-off. I would say this is probably close to a 45-55, 50-50 split of if I'm using this for a resource, I'm using this to ready. Because especially early on, having that wild resource is great. At that point, you have 2 wild resources on hand because you have the pilot plus you have this. But the deeper you get into the game, the more you're like, I would much prefer to use this to basically get a second activation. At that point, you are doing a 4 attack and a 2 attack, or maybe you're doing a 4 attack and a 4 thwart. Either way, this is a card that I think really unlocks Spider. I think I'm gonna have a hard time figuring out what my favorite card is in this pack. I like a lot of the cards in this pack. I just find this hero to be really difficult for me to make work. I can see how it's supposed to happen. I just haven't made it happen yet. All systems go. 1-cost event. It has the hero action, choose to either ready each interface upgrade you control, that is super powerful, or search your deck and discard pile for an interface upgrade and add it to your hand. This is the kind of card that I want to see. I want to draw at the end of turn 1 so that I can pull back any interfaces I might have discarded to pay for a different interface, or I want to see it late in the game because I want to just get all of my attacks out. I want to, attack for 4, thwart for 4, and then just do this and ready back up, and then get another activation of the Host Spider and whatever whatever basic power bump I want to do. I feel hyperbolic. Outside of the interfaces, this might be the best card in the pack. I could be wrong. It's just the way that I feel, but I think having 3 copies of this is amazing because you don't always get 3 copies of cards in a hero pack. We see an awful lot of 2-ofs, and this is just great. And yeah, this might be my favorite card in the pack just because it does have so many things. Like, you can make a big turn with interfaces, or this can help you to build by grabbing interfaces that you might have discarded or that got discarded by a caught off guard or something. Great card, possibly my favorite. Then we've got 2 copies of Web Trap, which is her attack event. So it is a 2-cost event, attack, hero action, attack, deal 5 damage to an enemy if you paid for this card using a resource generated by Spider's sync ratio ability, stun that enemy. This can be really great. It is, I think it's probably very fairly costed, and it has like a kicker ability. You can add on to it with something that I think is also pretty good. There are plenty of minions that are big enough that this is not going to defeat them. But I feel like if they're that big, stunning them is good. I almost only want to stun the villain. But honestly, like, if you run into a Tyrannosaurus Rex, yeah, you're going to want to stun that because that has 3 attack. Then you don't have to worry about attacking into it to basically do a 1-2 punch. I think other ones like Masters of Evil characters, you're going to run across, you're going to want to deal 5 damage to them and probably then use an interface, whatever interface it is, to deal the extra 2 damage, so you can basically hit 5, hit 4, or maybe you hit 5, hit 2, either way. But I most often want to aim this at the villain if I'm going to be stunning. Obviously, like I said, there are examples of big minions that it's worth stunning. It's just, I feel like in your average game, 5 damage is going to just get rid of a minion pretty quickly. And we've got 2 copies of Rapid Deployment, a 2-cost event. Thwart, hero action thwart. Remove 3 threat from a scheme if you pay for this card using the resource generated from Spider's ratio sync ability. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. So this is nice. I'm definitely someone who is on the side of, I do lean towards some preference for justice style cards, thwarting cards, because I do feel like they can do so much to help you control the pace of the game. And this is going to go a long way to helping you to maintain multiple schemes if you have to. Or you just hit the main scheme for 6, and that can be great. This is one where I have no question I want to try to double up as much as possible. Obviously, if you're in a situation where there isn't 6 threat to be had, if there's 4 threat to be had, and so you are taking a scheme down, make the main scheme down to 1, then you're not necessarily that worried. But Spider is so connected to their ability to generate resources based off the interfaces that you're probably going to get use out of this every time. And now we get to the one-ofs. So let's talk about her ally, Venom, Addie Brock. So it is a 4-cost ally with 3 health and 1 attack. Well, sorry, 1 thwart, 1 attack. And the star ability of Venom gets +1 thwart and +1 attack for each sim counter on her. And then the hero responsive, after Venom enters play, place 1 sim counter on her for each resource generated by Spider Suit's ratio ability to pay for her. So this is the kind of card that you probably are fine seeing early in the game, but you're really going to see the most out of it once you've built up, and suddenly, you know, she can be a 5/5 hero, or 5/5 ally, which is great. It is a reason why I understand why people would put Sidekick on her, because she probably does phenomenally in that role. I have yet to play Spider in a leadership role with Sidekick. I do like that archetype a lot, but I just haven't done it. That just comes down to also the fact that Spider is kind of a hard character for me to wrap my head around. I like I said, I understand all the cards. I just look at them and then I play them and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. But yeah, this is a powerful ally if you're doing it right. And even if you're just making her 3/3 because you had 2 interfaces in play, like, she can be very good. And yeah, I much rather, I mean, obviously the art shows her fighting Spider in a couple of them, but I would much rather have her on my side than the other side. Then we've got Ejection Protocol, a 0 cost support with the Tactic trait. Hero action, discard Ejection Patrol and exhaust each interface upgrade you control. Set your hit point dial to 6. Give your identity a tough status card and flip to alter ego form. So this is just a get out of jail free card to basically say, hey, we are in danger and I need to get out of here. I mean, it's exactly what the name of the card implies. Like, you are ejecting from the suit. And I think getting the tough status is nice because it helps you when you get into the turn after you've been in alter ego. It gives you the chance to do some recovery. I think the times when I've needed it, when it's in play and I've needed it, it's in play and I need it, and it's during a point when I have that revelation and I cannot use it because I cannot use a hero action during a villain phase. So yeah, this card definitely wants you to be thinking ahead and going, okay, during the villain phase, am I going to need this? And it hasn't caused me to lose. It just has caused me to be in very tricky situations where I much rather would have started with 6 hit points and a tough status on my turn than 3 hit points and nothing. But either way, cool card. I think it's thematic, and kudos to them for putting this into the deck. Then we've got SPDR Command. It is a 1 cost support with the location trait. Hero action, exhaust Spider Command, and an interface upgrade, draw 1 card. Or hero action, exhaust SPDR Command and choose to discard 1 card from your hand, ready an interface upgrade. Overall, I think this is an interesting card. I think it's almost doing the job of 2 different cards, but I think that with the small hand size that Spider has, I think being able to draw an extra card is good. I think being able to ready an interface is also good. This basically allows you to gain an extra resource or gain an extra activation. I think that I don't know that I've had this card in play more than once, but I have the feeling like this would really help to make some big turns even better, but I just don't have the experience with it. And last card of the pack, we have the 1 cost support Aunt May and Uncle Ben. It is a Persona traded card with exhaust Aunt May and Uncle Ben and discard the top 2 cards of your deck. Top 3 instead if you are in alter ego form. Put each Spider card discarded this way into your hand. This is just a nice way to get some card advantage. I like the fact that it is not entirely tied to alter ego, but you get a benefit if you're an alter ego. I think that this is a nice way to just keep pace and take advantage of the fact that you have a small hand size, but you have a way to mitigate that in some way. And once again, this is very helpful. If you are in your hero form, you still get the chance to possibly draw 2 cards. I think this also points to the fact that I had not considered digging deep for Spider, and I think there's only 1 card that really kind of discards off the top, so maybe it isn't that great. But this is a reason why you could very well put digging deep in, and then you just have more things to hit because you're just going to get the card back anyway. But overall, cool card. Not too much more to say. But let's go talk about our example deck, which I'm very excited to talk about. All right, and here we are, and right off the hop, I want to say, just in kind of breaking the fourth wall here, I'm going to apologize to MC Deck Discussions because I think that they are working on a deck for Spider-Ham next week, and I, in my discussions with them, said that I was going to go in one direction with Spider, and I ended up going with a different aspect. Still stays out of the way of what they're doing, but I saw this deck, and I just said, we have to talk about this, because I think that Spider is really interesting in Pool. I just hadn't found a deck that used a small enough card selection to actually fit into the 4-pack challenge thing, where we are using the smallest amount of packs we can to give new viewers like you the right to push you off on the right foot, to get you somewhere. So this is a Pool deck, and I figured it had to be possible because Deadpool is the only hero that comes with these cards. So there has to be some way that you can do Spider, Deadpool, and maybe 2 other packs to find something. And luckily, it just took a little bit of digging. I was able to find this deck from Leroy Jenkins. Well, actually, Leroy J. Jenkins. So it must be like his brother or something. But it is a Pool deck, and I will say that I am kind of impartial to pool allies. I see their reasoning. I see what they do. They're just not the first thing I think about. But we'll start right off the top with the allies and give you some context here. We've got dog pool. And most importantly, the pool aspect allies are defined by the fact that they do not take consequential damage. So that is something notable to keep in mind. It is something that's kind of attractive about them, but they come with a bit of a setback. So dog pool is a 3-cost ally, 0 thwart, 1 attack, 4 health, retaliate 1 in toughness, plus when it's defeated, it deals a damage to an enemy, and it has an acceleration icon on it. So fun ally, something that you can definitely do with some of the cards we'll talk about in the future. This is a card that's easy to get out. I'd say that it's a little outside of the context of the pool resource generators, which was, like I said, we will get into. He is a little bit expensive. I think, if I remember correctly, all of the pool allies are a little expensive for what you're trying to do with Spider, but that's not the most important thing to me in terms of what Spider can do with this deck. So let's just, we'll keep moving on. Then we've got Ghost Spider. Because she's basic, because she only works with the Web Warriors, she's a very easy card to throw into a Spider deck, into any Web Warrior deck overall, but she goes and gets you an identity-specific event. And with Spider having, well, first of all, I would go almost immediately, and what's that card called? I would almost immediately go and grab All Systems Go because it is such a powerful card. But overall, just being able to go get either the ready up card, the interface card, the attack, or the thwart. Spider's got some pretty good events, and so Ghost Spider's going to be helping you to get those events when she leaves play. Then we've got Headpool, a 3-cost ally. Again, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 1 health, no consequential damage. He's a Deadpool core and a zombie. And he has the response of after Deadpool attacks and damages a minion, that minion attacks another enemy of your choice. So this is maybe my favorite pool ally. I think they all have their highlights, but this is the one that if I'm going to be playing with pool, I'm doing it because I want Headpool in play. He does have the amplify icon, so that means that when you're counting boost icons, you're going to have to count an additional one. That is his trade-off, but I feel like that's a pretty fair trade-off. Plus, you can just have him blocked for 1, and he's out of there. Then we've got Lady Deadpool. She's a 4-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health, Deadpool core, and when defeated, defeat a non-elite minion. That can be super powerful, and once again, she's amplifying everything. The pool allies themselves are not necessarily the thing that I come to the pool aspect for, but these are very powerful. With no consequential damage, it's expensive, but it's powerful. Then we've got Hobie Brown, Spider-Man, maybe the most staple Web Warrior of them all. He is very good. I've said it multiple times before, but where Wiccan will maybe whiff and do no damage, Hobie Brown will come down, he'll do his stuff, and then when he gets defeated, or I guess when he leaves play, so be creative, but when he leaves play, discard the top 3 cards of the encounter deck, deal damage equal to the number of boost icons. That can turn the amplify icons on Headpool and Ladypool, bump that up. I guess that's another reason why Pool works out here. It wasn't even something I was thinking about, but yeah, Hobie Brown is a very strong ally. I think very similar to what people were saying about Nick Fury being a hero now. I think the idea of if we got a Hobie Brown, the biggest setback would be the fact that you couldn't put Hobie Brown into the deck. Then we've got Peter Parker Spider-Man. He has the requirement of paying all the different resource types. He is a 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health Web Warrior for 3, with the response of after Spider-Man attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior character ready to that character. So this is super helpful with Spider, just because Spider can have such big or such big basic powers. So like I said before, you get that attack in for 4, then you can get another attack in for 2. Or maybe you've used All Systems Go, so you can just attack for 4, attack for 4 again. But yeah, just good card and something I want to have around. And then I think this is the first time that we've looked at Spider-Man Otto Octavius, but he is a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 health. You can only play him when you have a Web Warrior, and after you play Spider-Man from your hand, ready an upgrade you control. If that was a tech, draw a card. So this is it's in the deck. It was from the Spider Pack. But this is the Web Warrior character that I think most helps Spider immediately. Ghost Spider does a lot of work when she's leaving play, but Otto Octavius comes into play and just really gels with what you're trying to do very well. So you've already bought the Spider Pack, keep this Spider-Man around. Then we've got Break Time, which I think is even in the write-up, right down here. Maybe not for solo play, but is an alliance card for 3. It costs 3 per player. I always look over that. It is an event with alliance, so anybody can play it, and the alter ego action of take a group break, leave the table, read a comic book. When you come back to the game, heal 1 damage from each identity for each minute you were away from the table. So maybe you got to stop to go eat dinner. This is your chance to just heal up. Obviously, I understand how there's some people that probably don't enjoy this because it's just silly, but it's, it is what it is. And I think it's funny. Then we've got Get Ragey, a 0-cost event. Action, ready an ally. That ally gets +1 attack until the end of the phase. We have plenty of allies in the deck. You're going to get a use out of this. You can only have 1 copy in the deck, which is very typical of these Deadpoolized cards, where they get a boost because Deadpool went in and augmented them. But yeah, this is just a nice version of Get Ready in the pool aspect. And then there is Not My Responsibility, a 0-cost event, max 1 per deck. When any amount of threat would be placed on a scheme, you or an ally takes it as damage instead. So this is, with the Spider, with the Web Warrior heroes, because they want to leave play, this is a nice way to get rid of Ghost Spider, get rid of Hobie Brown, and get the advantage out of them immediately. It can be very helpful in the villain phase to just negate some scheming and just turn it into, 7 damage, maybe even amplified. Or this is a good way to also get rid of your Deadpool, to get rid of your pool allies that are maybe becoming a little too risky for you. Then we've got Live Dangerously, a player side scheme for 0. It has 3 threat per player, it has victory 0, and each identity gets +2 hand size, and then it just comes with the full range of icons. Obviously it's missing one here, but yeah, you have to deal with this before the main scheme, unless you have some way to get around it. You have an acceleration icon, you are amplifying everything, and you're getting an extra encounter card. So this does come with a cost, but you do have that 2 hand size, so maybe it's okay to live dangerously. Got specialized training. We don't talk about player side schemes too often here. So it is a side scheme with 5 threat per player. When defeated, each player who does not control a specialized upgrade chooses 1 set-aside specialized upgrade and puts it into play under their control. The specialized upgrades are ones that, because they're not in here, right? No, because they're linked. Actually, let's just go pull them up real quick. They are upgrades that are linked. They're using the linked mechanic, and they basically, you get to choose one. They give you a boost in one of your basic powers or your health, as we just saw here. And then based on thematically with what you're doing, they draw you a card. So your basic thwart, when you make a basic thwart, you draw a card. When you make a basic attack, you draw a card. When you make a basic defense, you draw a card. And after you take any damage from an enemy attack, you draw a card. So these can just be super nice. They can be customizable to what you need in the moment. And yeah, I see the reason why you'd want this card around. Then we've got the resources. We've got the pool resources, which are super powerful. And I do think you can take advantage of the fact that Spider does not take a lot of damage, but she also has a lot of health. So you might be able to get away with, you might not always get 3 resources out of these, but you might get 2. I'm kind of skipping around here, but these resources are max 1 per deck, and each one of them, the self-confidence, self-control, and self-preservation, double up their resources if you've sustained less than 5 damage, and you triple their triple resources if you've sustained no damage. So they are just a nice way to, very early on, they basically pay for a card and make it really easy for you to take advantage of just Spider's got a small hand size. You don't have to worry about it. Then we've got Plot Convenience, a 2-cost support. Exhaust Plot Convenience. Choose to attach one aspect card from your hand face down here to a max of 3. And then you can also choose to add one attached card face down here to your hand. Any player may trigger this ability. So this is really good in multiplayer. This is also just a nice way that because you've got such a small hand, you might want to just store a card away until you can take advantage of having a bigger hand size. You can sit there and go, okay, I only have 3 cards. I'm going to ditch this once. The next turn, I have 3 new cards, and I can play this out. I don't know that I've ever, in my time playing with it, lost it, where it got, caught off guard or something, and suddenly I lost the attached card. I think the attached card just goes to the discard pile, but I've never had to cross that bridge, but I think that's what happens. Then we got Web of Life and Destiny, a pretty broken card for Web Warriors, but it basically draws you a card whenever a Web Warrior leaves play, and that's pretty good. You can also play it for free if you are a Web Warrior, which we are. So yeah, this is the way to turn on Web Warrior and other heroes, and this is just a free card for Web Warriors. Then we got, and this is where I think I had not considered this. And then once it became apparent to me, I went, oh yeah, that's why you'd want to play Spider in the pool aspect. So we've got the meta games, and this is Blackout. So as a hero action, although it's an upgrade for 0, with the hero action, I'll spend a resource of any type. The interfaces give you resources pretty easily, and move 1 threat from a scheme to an empty space that matches, one of these. If all spaces are filled, discard this card and confuse the villain. So this is doing work in the fact that you are thwarting without thwarting, and you're confusing the villain. I would say that of the meta games that are in this deck, this might be the one that I think is the lowest power. I might be wrong with that. Over the course of a turn or two, you are thwarting for 6 and confusing the villain. So it is very powerful. I just think that in comparison to the other one we're going to talk about, it's not as powerful or not as inherently powerful. Then we've got Healing Factor, a 3-cost upgrade, superpower, max 1 per player, response after the hero phase begins, exhaust Healing Factor, heal 2 damage from your identity. This is just a nice way to do a Wolverine impression. This is a way to make sure that the pool resources are going to be getting you as many resources as you can. You're able to just kind of heal back. You got 14, you got a lot of health, and this is going to help you to just keep that health as high as possible. Then we got Laser Swords, maybe one of the coolest cards out there. It is a weapon that counts as 2 restricted cards. It costs 3, and it's an upgrade. With your hero gets +1 attack for each icon in play to a maximum of 4. So this takes something like Live Dangerously or the pool allies that we have. It gives you a reason to play with them. Notably, Spider does not come with any weapons in her deck, so this just doesn't affect you at all. Like, you just get to put this in play and take full advantage of it. You don't even need to brush off anything. The only problem with it that I see is just that it is a card that you don't want to necessarily see right away because it does cost 3. It's going to be a little bit hard to get into play unless you happen to get it exactly in your opening hand and then you're using your entire hand to play it. I guess that's kind of unfair because Penny on her other side does give you a resource. But either way. Then we've got Stick-to-Itiveness, a 2-cost upgrade condition, max 1 per deck. And hero action, use a physical resource and exhaust this card, ready your hero. So it's just a better version of Tenacity, a pretty blatant upgrade to it. Good card, gives you another ready. Spider is really good with readies. And last card that we're going to be talking about for this deck is Tic-Tac-Toe, a amazing metagame for this deck. So it is a 0-cost metagame, again, upgrade. And hero action, spend 1 resource of any type, move 1 damage from a character to an empty space above, matching the resource spent. If there are 3 damage tokens in a line here, so if you've made a Tic-Tac-Toe, deal all damage on this card to an enemy and discard this card. So this is just a nice way to... trying to think here. Somebody has figured this out, and actually let's just have they figured it out on here. That's easy to do. Is that really true? 12 damage? maybe it's 7. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head the configuration of how you can basically do like 2, 2, 2, and then I guess you fill in here, so it is 7. Yeah, I think that's right. I think 7 is the number. So yes, I think this deck is really cool. I love the fact that it only uses 4 packs. That makes it accessible. And if you want to, I think the only card in here that comes, I think this is the only X23 card. So you could do this with 3 and just find something else to fill in with this deck. Maybe you just want to swap it out for a different tech thing, so you've got one more target for Dr. Octopus Spider-Man. But either way, cool deck. Let's go talk about the Obligation and the Nemesis. All right, and we are back to talk about the Obligation Inherited Burden. This is a card that we give to the Peni Parker player. Pretty typical. And you may flip to Alter Ego form and flip everything else. Choose Exhaust Peni Parker, remove Inherited Burden from the game, or choose and discard 1 interface upgrade you control, discard this Obligation. So this is just your typical speed bump Obligation. I enjoy the more nuanced ones, but I think this counteracts Peni in an appropriate way, because kind of similar to what I said about how Peni Parker can exhaust the spider suit, and now suddenly when you flip to hero form, your hero form is exhausted. If you exhaust Peni Parker, suddenly when you flip to the other side, you've lost a resource. So I think this is a very unique time when the Obligation and the exhaust, the Alter Ego, is interacting with what the hero is doing in a different way. It's not just you're losing an activation. In this case, you're not actually losing the activation because the spider suit is probably going to be fine. What you're losing is another resource, which is just kind of an interesting twist on what would seem to be a very run-of-the-mill Obligation. Obviously, if you're in the situation where you need to get rid of an interface, that I think is a really heavy tax. And the fact that the Obligation has the chance to come back is even more frustrating, because not only did you lose an interface, but you might see this again. And so it really does push you to want to just exhaust Peni to get rid of the card. Then we have the Nemesis minion with the signature side scheme. So we've got Morbius, a 2-scheme, 2-attack, 6 health creature with the force response of, after the engaged player generates any number of resources, deal an equal amount of damage to that hero. You need to come up with a way to get rid of Morbius pretty quickly with the minimal amount of resources being spent. So you do want to get that swinging web kick equivalent card and just take 3 damage and get rid of Morbius. The problem being that hopefully you have 3 health to put towards that, or you're just going to be making a lot of basic attacks. Like, this is a minion that the times it's come out, it has really screwed up what I'm planning to do, and that's rough. Then we have Giant Monster Attack, the side scheme. It comes into play with 4 threat, and as an additional cost to thwart this scheme, you must spend a energy resource. Plus it has the icon so that you cannot hit the main scheme while this is out, so you need to address this. I do like the fact that it is limited, it does not gain multiple threat per player, but just to thwart it, you need to generate resources. Morbius himself is going to put some damage onto you, so you sort of need to really pay attention to how you're dealing with this, because this can get out of hand very quickly. But yeah, that's heck of a combo. And then the remainder of the Nemesis encounter set is actually just the same card, which we don't see very often, but I think when they do, it's because they came up with a good design and they're going to fly with it. So we've got Energy Drain, a Treachery with the, when revealed in Alter Ego, you choose and spend, choose to either spend 2 energy resources or exhaust your identity, and on the hero side, you either choose to spend 2 energy resources or take 3 damage. And these are all just going to be in the pack. So I do not like the idea of drawing this when I'm in Alter Ego, because that probably means that I wanted to recover and now I don't get to recover. Plus, I suppose on the other side, you could just spend the resources. But overall, I like the thematics of just this pack, this modular encounter set that really cares about energy and spending resources and actually... Okay, so I was going to say, it's when the engaged hero generates any number of resources. So if you're an alter ego form and you have to pay for this, I don't think you take the damage because it's specifically calling out. It's not like the engaged identity. It's the engaged hero. We're fine there. But yeah, no, I'm trying to think here. Just in her own kit, we've got that. Got these. Okay, so actually, she has a reasonable amount of being able to natively create energy resources. So we're probably good there. But overall, yeah, just I don't like hitting this Nemesis kit because I do feel like this Nemesis kit does an awful lot to just like thwart you. It's not Enchantress level bad with Valkyrie, but this is definitely one that you pull that Shadow of the Past and this just completely pulls your attention for a turn or two. Plus the looming threat of energy drain. But that is... This is a rare time when I can do this. So that is Peni Parker. We'll move it out for the little notes. Oh, there we go. Sorry. There. Are you happy now? Okay. So that is Spider SPDR. Like I said, she's a hero that I totally get how she can be powerful. I'm just not skilled enough to be able to kind of like trick shot all these things together. I see the power. I just don't have the skill. I'm happy that she exists. I think that she is there for the people that love her. I'm happy that they love her. Until next time, when we will be talking about Spider Ham next week, I will see you then. Thank you for your time and have a great day.